It's really great to be here this morning. Thanks for the kind introduction. It's great to see everybody here. But it's really great for us. Where are you at, St. Really great to see St. Harris. My guy that was down there in New Orleans looking on Iwo Jima. That was my operating base. If I hadn't had Iwo Jima at Pier side when I came into New Orleans on the 6th of September, I don't know what I would have done. In fact, I probably would have been sleeping on the pier. So wait to see you put that star on. It's great to see you. I've been in NOA for a number of years. I want to congratulate you on this forum, the amount of people you have here today, the participation, and the roster of speakers that you had. I think it's a huge indication of where you're going as an organization, the maturation, and I'm really glad to be here today. I'd like to talk about a couple of things. And I'm going to close with some family talk about where I think we need to go in the Coast Guard. Because I think it's about time we came to grips with the fact that we're not moving as fast as we need to regarding diversity, and I think it's time put a little horsepower on the organization, and I'm going to ask for you to give me some feedback on where we need to go in that regard. But first, let me tell you, I'm sorry that I had to disrupt your schedule. I was scheduled to talk midday here today, and you got me on the morning slog at Starbucks. And you know, when schedule changes like this occur, it should give you a higher authority. I can tell you in this case, it's not my wife. In fact, it's the President of the United States. They laid on a tank regarding what's going on overseas, and I'll be there with the service chief this afternoon with the President. So I appreciate your flexibility and flip-flop the schedule, allowing me to be here this morning. This is a rather extraordinary day, as you know. I'm sure you know. Carried in the press this morning. There's also a ceremony going on in Congress, sponsored by Chairman Pelosi, that will memorialize the 60th anniversary of Truman's executive order that desegregated the United States. And it is a noteworthy milestone. Vice Commandant on the Coast Guard, Vice Admiral Adm will be there representing me today. Had I not had to come down here because of the President's meeting, I would have been there this morning in Congress as well. I got to thinking about that anniversary, and I actually went back to a conversation I had with my father in 1965. And that was the year my father retired from the Coast Guard as the Chief Damage Controlman. At the time, we were living in the Bay Area. And he came home one night and he told me a story that I did not believe. My father was involved in the Capitol Fort in San Francisco doing explosive loading. And he was a supervisor, supervising ammunition being loaded at the Concord Naval Weapons Station. You all know what that's at. And over dinner one night, he told me a story from World War II that blew my mind. I think many of you know it, but let me just kind of recount it because I think it was one of the contributory factors to President Truman signing that executive order. And the anniversary is within this week as well. It was the 17th of July in 1944 for two very large ships moored at what is now Concord Naval Weapons Station. It was called Port Chicago, up in Suisun Bay, up from San Francisco. There were two ships simultaneously being loaded with torpedoes, bombs, and ammunition destined for the South Pacific. Nobody is sure what the cause was, but there was a small explosion of a fire, and then basically both ships were blown up completely. The pier was obliterated. The ships were thrown over 550 feet into the air. The scientists at the University of California, Berkeley, thought there were two small earthquakes. And the sound was heard in Lake Tahoe. This was some kind of an explosion. There were 320 people on the pier loading ammunition that day. And all of them were killed. 202 of them were black. During the segregated days of the armed forces, the dangerous and often unregulated task of loading ammunition, bombs and so forth, was given to the black work details. And they were the only ones on the pier that day, largely, and suffered the largest amount of casualties. The amount of blacks who were killed that day at Port Chicago were 15% of all the war casualties in World War II. Shortly thereafter, in August, another ship came to Mare Island to be loaded. At that point, because of a lack of safety concerns, change in work practices, changes in supervisory practices, that many felt led to the rushed loading of the two ships. There were actually almost a race to see how much ammo they could get in, how fast, and working 24 hours a day. 258 black Navy personnel refused to load the ship. Until it was safe to go, they were assured that the welfare would be looked at after. All of them were charged immediately. 208 were taken to summary court-martial, and 50 went to a general court-martial, where they all got terms extending from 8 to 15 years for mutiny. Shortly after the end of the war, the president granted clemency, and they were released. But the records were never expunged until later on in President Clinton's term actually conducted a pardon. One of the individuals was still alive of the 50 that were subject to the general court-martial. This was an extraordinary event. And when my father told me about it back in 1965, as he was retired as a chief petty officer, I always remembered that. And last night, I went back and I read the executive order that President Truman signed. And then I went back on the web and I pulled up the report of the Port Chicago explosion, and it was as my father described. And in fact, it's in official Navy history. You can go back and read it. I would recommend those of you that have not read about that event, that you do it. It's a very good history to become aware of. When I sat down last night, I took a look at the executive order, and I want to share a couple of thoughts with you about that because I think it's important. The general talk about it in the Washington Post and other places this morning, but I think it's important to know how hard it is to make change. And sometimes you just have to power through the inertia that's there, and I think you probably have a similar challenge in the Coast Guard. When President Truman signed the executive order, he knew that it wouldn't be self-executing, but let me just read you two passages from it. It is hereby declared to be the policy of the President that there shall be equality of treatment and opportunity for all persons of the armed forces, without regard to race, color, religion, or national origin. This policy shall be put into effect as rapidly as possible, having due regard to the time required to effectuate any necessary changes without impairing efficiency or morale. We would call that the equivalent today of a cookie. Okay? And he also said there shall be created in the National Military Establishment an advisory committee to be known as the President's Committee on Equality and Treatment of Opportunity in the Armed Forces. And in fact, the work associated with implementing that executive order was given to a commission. Their biggest challenge was dealing with senior military leaders that said the efficiency clause in the tasking is a reason to take a look at this, and we need the impairing efficiency if we integrate the armed forces. One small phrase, and it left an exit strategy for the senior military officers at the time. Let me read you the conclusion of the report submitted by the committee to the President. The President's Committee, as previously stated, began its task convinced that the problem confronting it could not be resolved by appealing to moral justice or democratic ideals alone. Military officials did not deny the claim of these ideals. They asserted, however, that in discharging their duty, they must maintain military efficiency. The committee, on its part, did not deny the claim of military efficiency, but it believed the assumption that equality of treatment and opportunity would impair efficiency was of doubtful validity. The committee found, in fact, that equality had contributed to inefficiency. As a result of its examination of the rules, procedures, and practices of the armed forces, both past and present, the committee is convinced that a policy of equality of treatment and opportunity will make for a better Army, Navy, and Air Force. It is right and just. It will strengthen the nation. The integrity of the individual, his equal worth in the sight of God, his equal protection under law, his equal rights and obligation of citizenship, and his equal opportunity to make just and constructive use of his endowment. These are the very foundation of the American system of values. The President's Committee, throughout its deliberations, shaped its course consistently with these principles. The only thing I would add is his and hers. I only bring that to your attention, and it's well worth reading. You can pull from those reports up and take a look at what the committee actually did to let you know what lexicon, language, leadership, and values have to do with trying to make change occur in an organization. It has everything to do with how we talk about it and how we act and how we present ourselves as senior leadership. Just to let you know, because these are names you're probably not familiar with, the head of that committee was a man named Charles Fahey. He died in 1979 as a circuit court judge at the Circuit Court of Appeals in Washington, D.C. He was a World War I aviator during the Navy Cross. And in 1941, became a Solicitor General, and he was assigned to actually lead that committee. Another member of that group was John Herman Henry Singstack. You may not be familiar with that name, but he created the first black newspaper in Chicago, the Chicago Defender. In 1956, actually took it from a weekly to a daily newspaper, and then founded the National Newspaper Publishers Association, served as 7 terms as its president, which is an African American publishing consortium, and won the Presidential Citizens Medal from President Clinton. Another member was Lester Granger. His father was a runaway cabin boy from Barbados, came to the United States, married a woman from the local Tidewater area, had 6 children, all boys, all Ivy League athletes. Lester Granger graduated from Guard in 1918, was a World War I Army veteran, and was the founder of the Los Angeles chapter of the Urban League and chaired that organization for 20 years. The other one was Reed Stevenson, the president of Oberlin College. The final was Dwight Palmer, who ran a company called General Cable that's more than one of the largest telecommunications cabling firms today in the country. These are people that are not known well in history. I think they're worthy of our attention, they're worthy of our recognition, they're worthy of our understanding of what transpired, and I would commend the history of both the executive order and the committee to you. Let me move on and talk a little bit about diversity, because what I really want to talk about at the end is what's going on in the Coast Guard right now. General Colin Powell, in his autobiography, noted that minorities choose the military to join the most democratic institution in America so they can rise and fall on their own merit. There's no better place to establish equality than in a cockpit, a foxhole, or in a combat information center. It doesn't matter who you are, then. It doesn't matter what you get done and whether you all get out alive. The same for a boat crew or a boarding party, or one of our small boats that's trying to stop a go-fast coming from Cuba with migrants on board in the Straits of Florida and trying not to get anybody hurt or killed, which unfortunately happens from time to time. As we move forward and take a look at where we are in the armed forces, we need to recognize that as much as we have gained over the years since World War II, as much as we have gained through organizations such as yours, as much as we have progressed, there is still much to do. I have said on many occasions that in the United States Coast Guard, diversity is a readiness issue. Failure to understand the cultures that we deal with, the languages of the people that we are trying to serve as our stakeholders, impairs readiness. I've said on many occasions when we're trying to run down one of those boats in the Straits of Florida in the middle of the night, speaking Spanish is not a diversity and cultural nicety at that point. It is an absolute requirement to execute the mission. And one of the folks on my staff was doing some research. He came up with what I thought was a very, very interesting term. It's called cognitive diversity. And what the term means is if you're trying to solve a problem, we all have cognitive skills. We have our innate abilities. We get educated through life, and we bring certain skills to challenges that are assigned to us. Cognitive diversity is taking a bunch of people with different viewpoints that share the same values and put them on the same problem. And to give you a nautical metaphor, it's like moving from a 3-line fix to about a 12-line fix. If you can get different viewpoints that merge on the same solution to a problem set from different vantage points, different cultural backgrounds, number one, you have a much stronger solution. There's much more fidelity in what you have figured out that the organization needs to do. And moreover, it's been inclusive in everybody. Everybody's had a chance to play in the process and affect the outcome of the decision. But it requires 2 things. You agree on the problem that you're talking about, and you work from the same set of values. That's not a very high barrier to entry. What remains then is totally what's in our discretion, and that's inclusiveness. Making sure everybody has a seat at the table. Now, as we move forward in the Coast Guard, I had the opportunity a while back to visit North Carolina A&T University. And I talked to Chancellor Battle down there and had a great day on the campus. And I had a chance in the weeks that followed that to speak to some junior officers in the Coast Guard, some mid-grade officers. And I kind of started my own area of inquiry on this because we have to do something other than what we're doing right now in the Coast Guard. As much as I like myself when I look in the mirror, you don't want to see people like me forever, you know? Well, my wife did. We've got to get past the fact that we're trying to solve this thing mighty from the top down. There is no doubt about my commitment. I know where my senior officers, my flight officers stand on this. I know how we're all committed. But it's almost impossible to affect the change we need to affect the Coast Guard purely from the top down. It's got to be attacked at all levels of the organization from the bottom up. And it's got to focus on personal accountability and responsibility all through the organization. So in the next week or so, we're going to be putting out some all-coast messages. We're going to put out a couple of journal entries on the Homeland Security network. And we're going to start throwing out some ideas, and we're going to try to accelerate this process. We'll start off slow with some things that we can do merely by changing policy. But ultimately, this is going to have to require a reinvestment of resources. And as my very good friend, Admiral Eric Olson, who is the commander of the Special Operations Command, told me last week at the Defense Leadership Conference, you are what you buy. Or my euphemism is common, you don't make policy when you spend money. Okay? But sooner or later, there's going to be a money trail and accountability piece about where our resources are being applied and whether or not we're getting adequate return on investment. But as a result of the conversations I've had in the last couple of months, I've decided that as much as I'm committed to diversity, and I just passed a 2-year mark of my tenure as Commandant. In 2010, my tenure will be over and not shorter for some reason. That we've got to take the fight to a new level. So the next week or so, we're going to be doing the following things to throw these out, because in the end, I'm going to be asking for feedback, not only from Coast Guard people in the room, but anybody that's got an idea on it. First of all, it's very clear to me that people in the mid-levels of our organization are not getting proper feedback, mentoring, performance counseling, and are being put at risk by the evaluation process that then affects the assignment process. Very shortly, we'll provide guidance to the entire Coast Guard that an officer evaluation will not leave a unit that's assigned by the commanding officer, and an officer reported on it. He's seen it and it's been discussed with him. It'll be a major change. We'll be announcing that shortly. We are going to require commanding officers start participating in affinity groups like this. We now make it optional. Again, this gets back to money. We need to walk the talk. We need to get commanding officers in here doing what we do, and we will do that. Not only commanding officers, but flag and general officers as well. I have directed all flag officers and SES leaders in the Coast Guard affiliate themselves to the minority serving institution and maintain that affiliation the entire time that they are in the Coast Guard. I'm going to tell them who, what, where they can pick it, but they're going to align with one. This needs to be a historic black college or university associated with HAKU or one of the tribal council institutions. Everybody will be a liaison, mentor, gray beard, gray hair, or whatever you want to call it. We currently have a great college pre-commissioning program where we bring ascending juniors in to the Coast Guard as enlisted folks, pay for the last 2 years of college, give them a stipend, and then bring them to OCS. We've been targeting institutions that have a 25% minority population. We are not yielding what we need out of that in terms of officers, diverse backgrounds. We are going to reorient that program and focus it on truly minority-serving institutions. We're also going to take a look at 2-year institutions and whether or not at the 2-year point we can bring these folks out of junior college into a 4-year institution, or after 1 year, take a look at these folks for accession into the Coast Guard Academy. We have to target the population. We've been approached many times about junior ROTC programs and their value. We do not have the critical mass of the throw weight really to support that, but what we are going to take a look at is whether or not we can combine high school programs where there's a maritime nexus with our partnership and education programs, and our first attempt to do that will be with the Baltimore school system. We'll seek to expand that elsewhere around the nation. We're going to require that individual development programs and development plans be developed and adhered to at the unit level, so people have a way to track their careers, have a way to be mentored. This is going to merge with some new IT technology that will be coming on board when we upgrade our new operating system for our laptop. People will have the opportunity when they come into the Coast Guard to create an internal on a .mil type application, almost the equivalent of a Facebook account, where they can store information, make it available, talk to other people, and have that serve as their billboard in the organization about what they're doing, what they're about, who their friends are, what they're talking about. We need to take advantage of social networking and new media to make sure that we can reach out. Sometimes in a small organization like the Coast Guard, we look at small search and rescue stations, isolated units. It's hard to get critical mass to do some of this stuff until they see that these things are already happening through social networks. On the web, we should exploit that, take advantage of it moving forward, and we're going to do that. After all that's said and done, there'll be more announced. Those are some highlights. All that is good. All that needs to be done. All that won't work without personal responsibility. So you're going to see myself and other Coast Guard leaders speaking out on this. You're going to see podcasts. You're going to see YouTube video shots. We're going to try to get out and talk to the youngins there in ways they understand. But in my view, at least at the officer level, it really boils down to two things. And I got an email just as I was leaving this morning by a captain who couldn't be here today. Actually, he's involved in the other arena on the Hill. And he basically said, "Sir, if you don't mind me speaking truth to power, this gets down to really two things. It gets down to assignments and retention. If you think about that, that gets back to evaluations and mentoring, feedback on your performance." And he said something pretty interesting. We say that there's all these constraints, resources, and all that kind of stuff. We wholly own the assignment process. We wholly own all the factors related to retention. We wholly own the evaluation system. So the fact that we can't change that for the good of this organization is not a good argument for me, because you know why? That sounds a lot like we're going to impair morale and efficiency. That's not an argument I'm going to accept moving forward. So I'm here today to tell you that the last 2 years of my term as Commandant is going to be a major push on my part to walk the talk regarding diversity. And it won't be easy, because there'll be those that are out there that are going to say whatever the equivalent problem is efficiency. There are reasons we can't do this, but they're not really the core values of not this is a good idea. Baloney. Okay, we got to get on with business, we got to accelerate this process, and it has to be institutionalized. I'm going to make a commitment here today that I'm not going to leave this to my successor to do, because failure to do this year after year after year results in a problem 30 years later. The paucity of diverse senior officers in the Coast Guard right now is a problem that was created when I was an ensign. And the fact that I had 2 African American classmates at the Coast Guard Academy, and neither one of them graduated. And at that point, my class was going to be diverse as it was ever going to get. You don't get more diverse. You get less diverse as you go up through the ranks. So what we're going to do, there'll be a series of messages. There'll be some journal postings in the Homeland Security Journal. We're going to open that up for feedback. We're going to ask you what you think. Not just about the policy changes, because the stuff I've done here can be done easily because those require reinvestment resources. A hard thing are going to be ones that require money, and we're going to have to put money where our mouth is. But you know what the game changers are. You know the small things and the big things that can be done that really have an impact, as you see it at different levels of the organization. And quite frankly, after you've been in an organization over 30 years and you move on up, even if you want to see, it's hard to see. If nothing else, just because of the landscape that's out there, your work day and everything else. So I'm going to rely on you to tell me whether or not we've got this right, we're getting it right, and where we need to go to continue to get it right. So where you can go, where you can post your comments. Won't be quite a blog, it'll be pretty close to that. We get the information back, and we can hear you talking to us. You sit in these rooms many, many times and hear us talk to you. And many times you hear the same thing when you get a history lesson. Hopefully today's history lesson was somewhat interesting. But the fact of the matter is, we need to hear what you're saying. So as we move forward, I need to hear your voices. You've heard mine today, it's only one. I need to hear the voices of people out there at all levels of organizations saying you need to do this, and you need to do it now. So thank you for having me this morning, and if you've got some time, I'd like to take a couple questions. Okay.
Sir, I'm Guard Commandant Adm, I'm the president of the New England chapter. One of the things I hear you talk about is utilizing personnel, especially since you need more diverse personnel coming into the United States Coast Guard. Have you thought about including the cadets on some of your boards or having them feedback? Because I know you've got young talent there, but they know how to get it. They know how Facebook, they know all these different things. Have you thought about using them or utilizing them?
Well, we have. In fact, we've got a number of intern programs. We're going to cadets in the Coast Guard headquarters and put operating programs. I probably make, I don't know, 4 or 5 visits a year up there. I give an annual leadership lecture. Talk to these kids differently. I'll be very honest with you. You all heard about the news incidents, right, at the Coast Guard Academy? Well, last year, in the fall, I went up with Elijah Cummings, our House Authorizing Subcommittee Chairman, and we gave a speech. If you haven't seen it, I would commend it to you. It's on YouTube. It's got 4 stars. And it was a very intense night because we were kind of laying down the law. You don't treat shipmates like this. This is not a guardian ethos. You don't go out and save people and then not treat the people in your boarding party in the cockpit with you any differently. And I think the message resounded, and I think, we're doing okay now. Well, I went back up in January to give a leadership speech. Well, what do you do a month later after you did that? I made a video. I took a Bob Seger song called In Your Time. I talked about where they're going in the Coast Guard, what we wanted them to do, and I tried to frame it in their term of reference. And that's also on YouTube. You can see that too. And then I made the ultimate sacrifice. 2 months ago, I established a Facebook account. And I think I just got 300 friends.
And one other quick question, sir. I'm hearing there's changes possibly with how they will appoint people to the academy. And I want to fix that question down to you. I know it's tough, but...
No, I'm glad to take it. I can tell you how it happened. If you don't mind me using just one piece of profanity. Yeah, if you don't mind me using one piece of profanity just for the quick. When I was in high school, I had this poster in my room. My dad didn't like, my mom didn't like. For some reason I liked it. I bought it in Chinatown, San Francisco or something. There are 2 buzzards sitting on the limb. And one of them looks at the other and says, "Patience, my ass, I'm going to kill something." All right? I believe that the people that are looking at the Coast Guard and the lack of diversity at the Coast Guard Academy, while they didn't say that, says something has to be done. It has to be done. I've had several conversations with Chairman Cummings and Chairman Thompson of the Homeland Security Committee on how we can improve diversity at the Coast Guard Academy. What we are doing right now, we are talking with them. Whether or not the size of the Coast Guard Academy is amenable to a nomination process similar to the Naval Academy, we're not sure. We all agree on the outcome we're trying to achieve, and that's more diversity and a more diverse Corps of Cadets. Whether or not a nomination process gets you that, or whether or not we have to be looking at some of these other things like what areas of the country we're targeting, that's the discussion right now. The legislation is only passed in the House, hasn't really have a bill in the Senate yet, and it's problematic whether or not there'll be an authorization bill this year. But I went to Chairman Cummings and asked for help. Now, the help I got may or may not be the legislation he proposed. But he and I are both violent agreement we need to work on this together moving forward. We intend to do that. My guess is it'll be something maybe different than what's in the authorization bill, but that's something that I'll work with the chairman on, and we're both totally committed to approve the process. Very good. Thank you very much, folks. Honor to be here.